I hit record on that though. I've done that before. Record well, like we talked for 5 minutes and I didn't record, like the audio.
Oh,
It's like, oh shit, we gotta start over. So Boeing, did they whack a guy? Did they knock a guy off?
you know what? I don't have a problem with starting off with that.
All right.
Yeah. So let me know when you start, and you'd be like, welcome Nate from Trash Rose back to the podcast.
Yeah, I figured
We're going to talk about data management. And one of the first things I had to him is, if you want to control your data, do you just whack a guy going back to Boeing?
I would.
Right?
Like, dude, like this is inefficient. Like when you start telling people all this stuff,
Right.
it's gonna cost us.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what it.
Well, we're not recording it, are we?
Yeah, we're recording.
Oh.
This is just a little appetizer to warm it up.
I mean, start, do the introduction.
Yeah, I mean, I could, but
Do the introduction.
So, okay.
And then we'll go into data management and whacking a guy at Boeing.
Right, we are on number 6 or 7. I think we're on 7. I should be
Aren't you on
taking those
8?
notes. Maybe it doesn't matter. It'll be in the title. So this podcast is garbage. We brought Nate back. He wants to talk about data management and if Boeing killed a guy.
That's a really good for everybody out there that hasn't followed on it. There was a
I wanted to spice it up a little bit.
yeah. Well, do you want to tell them what you're talking about with the if Boeing whacked a guy?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so well, the joke was before we started, you're scribbling notes, and you're like, you're falling asleep. I'm like, kinda. I was like, data management's probably gonna bore some people, but we'll start off lighthearted for the current hot topic, which is Boeing had a whistleblower that was saying, hey, I was your quality control guy for 15 years, maybe, quite a long time, and he was saying you guys were taking stuff out of the scrap bin that was not safe for use because you're getting behind on production. So we just took it out of the scrap bin, put planes together, and then stuff wasn't working.
They're like the you pull it of new.
That's the perfect explanation. You pull it.
Pull it.
Just pull it off that junker.
You pull it of
Yeah, and he gave his
new
whole
airplanes.
He gave his whole deposition, and then the Boeing lawyers said, before you drive home, because he was telling his mom, I'm coming home tonight, I'm going to drive home. The lawyer said, can you stick around for another day just to wrap up a few things? And that's the day, or that's the night he offed himself, unlived himself.
Unlived himself.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but didn't he say, like, tell his mom or wife or whatever,
Yeah.
like, if I show
Yeah.
up that I, like,
Oh, yeah. And they
myself
said,
that's not the case, it's
Yeah.
these yahoos.
right, and they said he packed up his hotel room as if ready to go. Like, if you're going to off
Well, yeah,
yourself.
apparently he was ready to go.
Right.
Or unready to go.
Hey, so for me, I recently watched Aaron Brockovich, and it's like they were fined $330 million for the damage to the water that caused the health issues to the people around this plant.
And the only reason why they were able to get that was because Aaron Brockovich in that movie
Yeah.
was able to go out
Yep.
and collect all the data,
All the data.
and then they were able to put it all together.
Right.
I mean, that movie really is about
It's a
data.
good-
It's really about data management.
This is a beautiful segue.
Yeah. So it's about data management, right?
Yeah.
So they had to go out and find the victims. Then
Yep.
they had to itemize all of them,
And their medical history,
their medical history,
their locations.
and then they went and found other people who would testify for him,
Yep.
thus securing more
Yep.
data. And then they were able to find old documents.
Water board. Yep.
All these old documents,
Yep.
internal and other documents.
Yep.
And once they had that, then the company had to write the check
Yep.
because, well, the data said you had to write the check because it'd probably be a bigger one if we go to court.
Yeah, and at 300 million, I don't know what.
Oh, that was like in the 90s or
300. Yeah, in the 90s, huge.
Yeah.
This is like mid 90s. So what would you think? What's a corporate hit guy cost? I bet less than 300 million.
Oh, I bet you. I bet you. No, the problem with
A good one though.
the
I want
problem
a good one.
in the Boeing example
Yeah.
is if let's say let's just say let's say hypothetically they whack the guy,
Okay.
but that doesn't like miraculously put the right parts on the planes.
No, it does not. And does it make the problem go away? Maybe not.
No, and it probably doesn't. Plus,
Yeah.
all of the information was secured. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, at first blush, you're like, oh yeah, they whacked him.
Yeah.
But when you sit back and you look at it, I'm like, well, he already gave all of the information that he was going to,
Right.
or most likely. So,
Yeah. As
I mean,
a deposition, though,
yeah, yeah.
does that
No,
work as effective as like in front of a judge?
well, yeah, because they were crossing him
right,
during all this. But yeah, so that guy, you know, uh,
Got
you
it.
would have wanted to do that on the front side,
Yeah.
right? So, and that's what employees do when they do something bad. They try to hide the data on the front side.
And so let's begin. Data management for trash companies.
Okay.
Okay, so after your last appearance,
Yeah.
you met with multiple people who reached out to you from
Yeah.
that appearance.
Yeah.
And you probably, I don't know all the details, but just through casual conversation, it sounds like you had a couple moments where you're like, oh man, data management done like from step one would have saved a lot of issues and made certain transitions go a lot smoother. Because
Right.
as we go deep, okay, so garbage, I've said it before, the garbage industry is always behind when it comes to innovation.
Always. What are you talking about?
Like, it's just
It's forever.
Forever.
Forever
Yeah.
behind.
because,
I mean, we
yeah.
live in Nebraska, so we're stuck in what, like 84,
Yeah.
85, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
I would say a
Yeah.
lot of the trash industry is behind
Yeah.
that because you have guys. I mean, QuickBooks came out in '79,
yeah,
and we have people that aren't even using like even a basic QuickBooks to do their billing. So I would say you could almost throw some of these companies back into the '70s.
ugh, God, and that's a huge problem.
It's a very big problem.
And what you are realizing is not just with data management, but just being behind the curve, the customers what they need, as far as like on the service side of things with tech related to data and software, the service quality goes down,
So
and it creates a lot of headache.
yeah,
Drivers, owners, customers.
So a lot of times, you'll see like, oh yeah, I started with a pickup truck and
Yeah,
$4, after I got fired or laid off from doing this, and that's how my dad started the business.
yeah,
Yada yada. And in the beginning, that owner, because he's the only person or she, and that person becomes an information island a-hole. They don't realize it
yeah.
because it's just them. So they're like, oh, I don't need to write this down. I don't need to have a system. It's all right here. Okay, so then you're saying,
Sorry, I'm gonna cut you up a little. Sorry to interrupt. I'm hearing a little. Somehow like when you.
oh, I think I was tapping on.
Yeah, you hear that?
Yeah, well, that's me tapping. on
Okay,
it.
just so you know. Sorry to interrupt. It was
no.
distracting me, so I couldn't focus on what you're saying. I know. I'm
Yeah.
still relatively new to this.
So then the owner is like, holy crap, we're growing.
Yeah.
I need to get somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say they have a town that's broken into quadrants, and he's like, Sam, just go run the north quadrant,
Right.
the northeast quadrant of town.
Yeah.
Well, which houses?
Yeah.
Well, they're in my head. Just and this
Yeah.
is where the a-hole part comes out because it's like, just do it.
Yeah.
So you see the carts out there, and there's not a system in place to move the data from your head to the rest of the team.
Right, and because it was never established,
Right.
done
And
right in the first step.
so then what's the next step for that owner? The next step is I need to become a micromanager because I can't communicate.
Yeah, and
Did you just throw up a little bit?
a
in your
little
mouth?
bit.
'Cause you're like, "Ugh, I've seen this."
Micromanaging. Again, like I represent sort of the driver perspective,
Right.
and this is my theory. I've been wanting to make this.
So that
real.
hit you when I said
Yeah,
that.
but I'm gonna go down a little bit of a tangent because it's a theory I'm working in my head that might turn into a reel. But I want to ask in a reel to other drivers out there: are you messed up a little bit, so you got into garbage, or did you get into garbage and that messed you up a little bit? Like what happened
Right,
first?
and then they talk about it for life. So it's
Yeah, because
so then you're like addicted to whatever.
yeah,
yeah.
garbage men. I feel like what brought me to that is once you're in the truck, it's very hard for someone to hover or micromanage you when you're in the truck.
Right.
And then when you're getting phone calls and like notes sent to you while you're doing your job, it's like, I don't like other people want a garbage man. I can go be a garbage man somewhere else.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, right. And in today's labor market, you could go
Yeah.
do a lot of things
Yeah.
somewhere else and make more money. Or
And managers, once they've learned to adapt to that, where it's just like, you know what? Once that guy takes the keys and gets in the truck, just leave him alone.
aren't those some of the best absolute drivers?
That's the
And by
best
the way-
work environments.
And by the way,
Yeah.
please know when you're doing data management, you have like
Yeah.
2 different drivers. So
Yeah.
a trash route driver is different than a roll off driver.
Yeah.
Some guys want, hey, on Monday I do this, on Tuesday I do
Yep.
this. Their mind just is like, I can. Anyways, it's easy peasy because I'm just doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Other guys want a mixed bag of every moment of every day,
Yeah. Yeah. There's some of those. And maybe they run a bulk pickup route where it's like,
or
hey,
they're running roll offs. So,
or roll off.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
something-
Depending on what the outfit is.
Yeah, yeah.
But whether it's the guy that likes it mixed up every day, maybe a swing driver, roll off driver, whatever, or someone that wants the same thing. In order for those things to flow fluidly, is good data management from the back end at the start.
Well, so data management is, and I've made the joke that the Midwest is known for its passive aggressive, alcoholic nature, right?
Yeah.
So-
or it's a joke or a fact. I mean, it's a
Or
lot,
fact.
a lot of
Or-
overlap on that.
Right. So
Yeah.
when you take like passive aggressive behavior
Okay.
and you take micromanaging,
Mm.
and you start to compound this because, maybe that owner is not great at communicating these ideas.
Mm.
So how can we put them in a way that, I'm not saying, Thor, you suck at your job,
Yeah.
because a lot of times, there's these 8 things and they don't know, there's not a process,
Yep.
so we don't really elevate ourselves to our goals. I mean, we want to,
Yeah.
but you know how like people are like, reach for your goals or reach for the star. Okay, so
Yeah.
and then what? But why do we have to keep saying that? I mean, if it was so damn easy, you'd just be like, oh yeah, I'm there. Make higher ones. I'm there.
Yeah.
No, but people will always fall back to the systems. So you're only as good as the systems you have in place.
That is very true. Because as I've worked with 3 different garbage companies, and every time I transitioned, the one recruiting me was asking for a little bit more. Because I know when I was at a larger corporate company, like I would show up and it's just like, I'm gonna run my route and I'm gone. Like I will work here as long as that's the circumstance. And
This is just a job.
JOB. Like I just need benefits. My wife is pregnant, so this is strictly transactional. And I knew I was capable of more.
Right.
Like just education background and just in general, it's like I know I can do more.
Right.
But they also they're not paying at a rate that wants me to do more.
Well, wasn't that like $13 an hour or something?
Oh, it was bad. Yeah, this is 2012 starting out, probably 13, 14. I think I remember saying 14 right at the start. And the shop manager, because there wasn't an ops manager or there wasn't a district manager at the time. The shop manager was kind of interim head guy. And I said 14. And he's like, oh, I don't know. Like he was like kind of like scared by that number. I was like, Jesus, there's some red flags here. But at the same time, I could be done by 12 some days. And
they were also flexible with your hay business.
yep, and I'd go home and do some hay stuff. And if it was out of season, like there's always hay to deliver somewhere or whatever.
Right.
So it worked to an extent. Not perfect. Like I've told people those were like some of my hardest years because like hay was still heavily labor intensive. Just because I didn't have all the grapples and bale wagons.
So you're saying that automation?
Oh my
your life-
God.
Oh my gosh!
I could go for an hour about the
Right.
overlap between automation of like the hay business and automation of.
Okay, so you're talking
Garbage.
about like how when we started talking about this, you're like, oh my goodness, God, this is just horrible. This is boring. I mean,
Yeah.
as I was talking through this in the beginning, you're like,
Yeah,
I could see your
yeah.
eyes starting to.
yeah. Well, you were in your flow state, and I'm like, okay, the
But
guest.
as
will,
soon, but
yeah.
as soon as I said automation,
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, this
Well,
was life changing.
no,
And
yeah.
data management is like that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how.
Yeah.
But first, I want to get to some numbers.
Okay.
So, upwards of 30% of the action that people inside of a trash company are making, so that'd be drivers, office, whatever, up to 30% of that could be inefficient. Like, could just be done with and not happen. So you got a driver that's and you're like, oh my god, 30% sounds way too high. Okay, well, let's say this: you've got a driver out there that's doing a route in 10 hours. Are you saying that if it was really dialed in, he might not be able to get that done in 7?
Right.
That's 30%.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody in the office, if it was really organized and all those systems were in place, you're saying that if so what that does, we'll say the 8 hours that they're there, you're saying that they couldn't get that work done in 6 if it was really well put together.
Or in the 8 hours there, they're doing the same work that 2 people were doing in those 8 hours. I mean, because we've had that discussion. That's a high.
Well, and
estimate,
I'm going to
but
give you an example. So we're going to say somebody's got 4,000 customers. We're going to say only 10% of those are, which tends to be low at times, but we're going to say 10%. So 400 of those are on the suspended list because they hadn't paid their quarterly trash bill.
Sure.
So usually, and what did that mean in life before? Well, we need to type out a letter and send it to them, or we need to dial the phone and leave a message and then play phone tag. During the hours that they're working and we're working, but we're not doing it. Okay, so this would be 400. You take okay, so we're doing 10 calls an hour, or we'll say even 20 calls an hour.
That's cooking.
Yeah, 20. So that means every 3 minutes. But at 400, that's 20 hours.
Yeah.
It's 20 hours.
Yeah.
And if you have a good database,
Yep.
and I shared this so with our messaging platform, we can take their name, their first name, last name, your company name, their account number, where they have to go, all of these things.
You're blocking the mic.
So yeah, do you want to just start over where I was saying?
No, you're saying I get it.
Yeah.
Like, but when you block it.
Oh
like
yeah.
that,
Okay. You see no evil. Okay. So but when you have the first name, last name, how much they owe, their account number, the link that they need to go to, and we can send out an itemized text message to those.
Yep.
We can do that in 10 minutes.
Right. So
We can do that in 10 minutes.
Same amount of communication that would take 20 hours to contact all these suspects.
And it's more efficient.
Well, way more efficient. And essential, it's customer preferred.
Customer preferred. They don't want to talk to you.
No, I don't. Like,
Well, here's the thing. You don't. Okay, Thor, you owe me money. How excited are you to hear?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and then you're on the phone.
Right. So just the other day, we had somebody get signed up with our messaging platform.
Yeah.
And the first person, so we sent out a thing to all their suspended stops, and the very first person that sent back was somebody that refused to answer phone calls, emails, or letters.
I'm that guy.
Right. So like this person was like, no, and they're like banging their heads because this guy has anyways.
Yeah.
But as soon as they sent the message with the stuff, boom, this guy sends a message right back. And guess what happened later that day? He brought in a check for $347.
I know. Okay, so there was we owed a dentist bill at home, and it was a small town, small place, and they kept sending these letters saying, like, it said they would take a card, but you would have to write it out on a piece of paper and then mail it back. And I was like, God, you guys don't want to get paid.
Right?
This is stupid. Like, why do you not, even a small outfit like that should have been able to create a billing system, because there's dozens and dozens of options out there now where it's just, I need a QR code printed on a piece of paper that says, hey, you have a standing balance at this hospital or dentist office. Scan the QR code, goes straight to, like, you don't have to worry about some scam website intercepting the URL because it's the QR code that we mail to you.
Right.
So yes, you opened a piece of mail, but just take your phone out, scan the QR code. You're there, type in your information, and it's paid. But instead, they wanted me to take the envelope they provided, go get a stamp, go get a checkbook, and then put it all together. Oh, I need a pen. Go get a pen. Oh, this one's dry. Get another pen. I've said it before. If you want to be good at business, make it easy for people to give you money.
Right.
And that was
No,
not
you
one
said that, and you've driven that point home.
Yeah.
But so just to give you like the global, and this is from IBM. IBM says that we're losing 15% of our GDP across the U.S. economy.
Ugh.
Right, 15%, or $3.1 trillion a year. Right, so that's enough money that we could literally pay, we could get rid of the national deficit, right? And you could pay off. Then you could actually put money down towards like $1 trillion and a half every year to pay down the debt. With less work.
So when you talk about they're losing GDP.
Or 15% across the economy.
I know, okay, but is that like
just due to inefficiencies of poor data management?
So measured into the GDP, is that someone who's sitting at a desk calling, 15, 20 phone calls an hour versus just typing up a text and sent? It's like, okay, you spent an hour making phone calls. I mean, that level of productivity or labor.
Right. So
is that what I'm?
What I'm going to throw out. So I threw out some stats here, and then we're going to I've got a list of stuff. What does the driver need? What's the office need? What does the operation need?
Okay.
What do customers need to see for data flow to make a big difference? And so so it was the 15% or over $3 trillion a year just on data management, right? So, but let's give that a perspective. So the top end was kind of that 30%.
Yeah.
And the average was 15. So if you have a $1 million revenue business, that means you're leaving between $150,000 and $300,000 on the table.
Just because there's people.
Just because you have horrible data management.
And that's because there's labor and time sunk into people searching through their customer
having to make a phone call for everybody,
calling a driver saying blah blah blah, this is gonna happen, then you go
so there's a hauler that I talked to. He's got one thing that's for his routing. Okay. So he's got routing, so he puts everything in that route.
Okay.
Then he puts everything else into a different billing system. And then they have other things in Excel. Okay. And anyways, he's got 4 or 5 different systems that everybody has to and there's nothing that's brought it all together.
A person has to bring it all together.
Well, right.
But, I mean, as they go through the workday, they have 5 windows open for each one of these things.
Yes. Yep.
Whereas hey, if this was all under one window on a dual monitor setup, all of a sudden that one employee is executing, commands and software faster.
Correct.
I can visualize this because when I do the video editing here, and when you learn the quick keys for stuff, you'd be surprised how quick you can get through an editing scenario or setting just because you're not scrolling over here, clicking, scrolling over there, clicking. Whereas,
and when I'm setting people up on the texting platform or on the online ordering, I set them up. Hey, we're gonna have a Teams meeting.
Yeah.
And the reason why is you're gonna do the clicks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit there and see your cursor, but I need you to go through the clicks.
Yeah.
And people have one monitor. I'm like, please don't. And I'm like, so get 2 monitors, but in the interim, here is the flow of work. I want you to print that off so you can see it.
Yeah.
And so, and working with somebody, they're like, oh, I can't do that. And they're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like, with the workflow, you can go ahead and you can do that. And you can find a lot of workflow just with ChatGPT. I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z in Excel. How do I do that? Well, and it will tell you step by step. And it's a lot simpler. That's another thing right there. Just the efficiency when you try to go into like an Excel like help
Mm-hmm.
thing, you're like, I don't know the proper words. Whereas, ChatGPT allows you to use your own vernacular, and then it
Yep.
processes it and then says, okay,
Yep.
yes, what you're doing here is this, this, and this. But I digress. I wanted to finish off these
Okay.
just so if you've got $1 million operation, that's between 150 and $300,000 a year. You
Yep.
could be missing out on. 2 million, that's 3 to 600,000.
Mm-hmm.
At 5 million, you're at 750 to 1.5 million. And if you're doing $10 million a year in revenue, you're leaving 1.5 million to $3 million on the table.
Yeah. And these are all like we can kind of like other people in the industry who don't do what you're doing right now, they can estimate kind of the cost of like, okay, we did like 200 go backs last month and we can price each one of those at a certain value, and you can kind of calculate what that might cost, as far as how that affects their revenue for that month.
Right.
What we're talking about, these little micro moments, as far as, hey, you're only operating with one monitor and you got 5 windows open and you're wasting time just clicking back and forth between things, and then you're making phone calls. You're eating up a lot of time that you think, oh, that's just the way it is, but it's actually really expensive when you could get someone to do more with less,
Yeah, and let me see here.
which is basically the same as like running an automated truck.
Yeah, so I talked to an owner of an IT firm, and I said, if you have, we're gonna start with the computers and efficiency.
Okay.
Would you, Thor, if you were going to start a trash company and you were in a hot market, right?
Okay.
A hot market.
So easy to grow.
Easy to grow.
Okay.
Would you get a 4-yard trash truck?
Oh my God, no.
No. Why not?
Like, if it's growing fast, it's like you're not growing for what you have now. You got to what you'll need down the road.
Right. So
Because I don't want to have
Because what I
like,
just said, it sounds dumb, right?
yeah, yeah,
Even if like, oh, how about a 6 or even a 10? How about a 10?
yeah.
Okay. So that sounds dumb.
Okay.
But how many people have internet speed in their office
Okay.
that's not fiber
Oof.
and is like
Mm.
20 down and 5 up or
Oh, yeah. I get better than that out in the country.
right, but
Yeah,
there are
okay.
places that
Have
and
that.
what you do is you just go run a speed test, right?
Mhm.
Just type in your browsers,
Yeah.
run
Internet
a speed
speeds test. Yep.
internet speed test, and then if it doesn't say 100 up and 100 down,
Mm-hmm.
or 100 down and 100 up,
Yeah.
it's not fast enough.
No.
Call your provider and say, I want
Boost it.
fiber.
Yep.
I want fiber, and I need a minimum of 100,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So I'm running, I run at like 300, 200.
Yeah.
At
your home.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So, I run that, and, it does everything I want.
Mhm.
My son could have 20 people over on their phones,
All-
sucking off of it,
yeah.
and I can, but the point is that we have enough to run it up and down. So then you need to also talk about RAM, and if anybody wants this, just I'll type it out, but you can
Yeah.
email me at nate@trashjoes.com, and I'll send you the specs. But he said, you need to have at least an i5 processor, and then 2 monitor. Then you
Yep.
need to have a graphics card that can handle 2 monitors,
Okay.
right? And then you need to have probably 16 gigabytes of RAM. And your hard drive needs to be probably at a minimum of 1 terabyte.
All right.
So what does that do for your staff that's sitting there? So if you have 2 good-sized monitors,
Mm-hmm.
and it's set up properly, and you have a quick computer, and there's hardly any delays. So any of the software that they open, it's popping. Things are transferring back and forth. If other office staff are uploading bigger documents or all that, it's not changing anything.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is just
Right.
moving easily. So don't give your office staff the 4-yard truck, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, the analogy.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's
Yeah.
when you have like an old computer
Mhm.
that doesn't have a RAM, because you can't open. If they had more than 4 windows open, it's just like
Yeah.
roll.
There's
Right.
there's people's phones that operate faster than that.
Correct.
Yeah.
right?
As
And
far, yeah.
I'm a window guy. I'll have 20 windows open
Oh
at
yeah.
times,
Oh yeah.
but I've got I think I have 32
Yep.
for my RAM,
Mm-hmm.
and that was because I was like, well, I'm not. There's going to time be. I have 50 windows open,
Yep.
and I just accept that.
Yep.
So the computer thing, your office staff will probably pick up. The people that are working on the computer all day, probably 50%, if not 100,
Yeah.
100% efficiency
Just
gains.
to not wait for like the click and that little bit for it to calculate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
To process.
Well, more importantly, you know, I have this data here that I can see,
Yeah.
and this data here that I'm moving some data
Yep.
over to,
Yep.
right? So we're doing those type of things. But what are we doing now if we only have one monitor? That person's having to see
Mm-hmm.
this and then close that window and open another one. And
Ooh,
yeah.
And that because you've seen how I have a setup for editing. It's 2 4K monitors and like everything's available. So I'll have a whole list of clips and video files and graphics that I need over here, and it's just click on it, bring it up, take what I need, drop it in, instead of like Alt Tab, close a window, bring this forward, and then Alt Tab, bring it like. If you're doing that hundreds of times a day, and it's terribly slow. It kills. It'd be if we're using analogies, it'd be similar to if you're running 1,000 stops and every few stops you have to get out and just drag it out from behind a car.
Well, yeah. Well, not. I would say it's worse than that.
Yeah.
Imagine every time that you have a stop, right? It's not on the monitor. It doesn't. You
Yeah.
need to. Okay, I picked that one up, and then you've got a printer inside of your truck
Oh.
that you have to like hit the print button, and it prints you out another paper ticket
Yeah.
that says this is what's going on. You'd be like, what is this?
I was at a company that as they transition from they'd print out all their route onto paper.
Yeah.
And so you would have a stack of like 20 or 30 sheets with all the stops, and you'd run one, grab a piece of paper, clipboard, check it off, run another, check it off. Maybe you could run a 5 and then pencil whip 5, going. And then you'd have to stop, flip paper. So every time you were doing that, you would have to stop, take your hands off the wheel, get out of the flow state, which
Right.
if people aren't aware of flow state, it's just like when you're in a rhythm, you can just
So all of this
hammer
goes
them.
back to the data flow from what the company needs and the customer needs to
Yeah.
you
Yep.
is being bottlenecked by that. So let's even
Right.
take a step back.
Okay.
So there are plenty of trash companies that were like, well, we run all of our stuff off an Excel spreadsheet for our routes.
I don't like that.
Well, yeah, because you're like, right.
I've
It's
seen
not
how
good.
bad it is, and I've seen how good it is on the other side.
Right. So
Yeah.
so that goes back to efficiencies.
Right.
So I'm going to read, or I'm going to just kind of list off here some of the things that we need to have in data and what it means.
Okay.
So, like the office needs to make sure that there is a system. And I use trash flow. You guys currently use trash flow.
Correct.
Here it is.
Yep.
So you need to.
We should bill them for that plug.
Uh,
Not yet.
no,
Not yet.
but you use trash. So what are the things you need to make sure that the first name and last name are in there properly?
Yeah.
If it's a company name, that's in the proper spot as well.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that if they're a residential customer, commercial, or a roll-off customer, right? You got to make sure that, and I see this all the time. The phone numbers, when you put them in, there's a little box off to the left-hand side, and you can put in there like cell or mobile number, or whatever you want to list that as. But make a policy, you have some governance that says that first one is always for the mobile or the cell phone.
Right.
So type in cell and then put their phone number in there, right? Put in cell, put their phone number in there. And so, just go ahead and do that. And that way you have, then, as you go through this, you'll know exactly what number that is.
Sure.
So, because you can't text a landline.
No.
So, and maybe that's where you use like an audio call.
Yeah.
And I've done that before. Like, here's a text message for these, and there's a call for these other folks. But make sure and put in the area code, right? So you can't move something over to a message platform because there's however many area codes or 999 of them.
Right.
You know, it's going to say, well, we need the area code.
And then you gotta go back and
Right.
enter them
You know,
all.
and I lived in Georgia for a while, and so you know, I've got a 912 area code.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't fit into the 402 that we're in.
No.
So you know, and nobody's going to pick that up if it didn't get put in there.
Right.
So you know, make sure the top one, write in cell or mobile, whatever you guys want to designate
Yep.
that as. You know, and it can be even as much as a capital M,
Yep.
just for mobile. Boom.
Yep.
Make it simple. You know,
Just so everyone's understood
Yes.
and it's universal.
yeah, put that in. Make sure we're getting the right address, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that we're getting on the right route.
Yeah.
So let's say somebody goes online, orders new, and then they put it on your route. How do they put that stop on your route?
Oh, for us?
Yes.
They put it at the top of the route.
So at the beginning of the day,
Yep.
you're getting in the truck, you've got that, and then you're the one that places it on the route.
Right. Because there's a function where it's like move this after previous stop.
Oh, so you're letting them
Yeah.
know. Oh, so you
So-
can actually
Yeah.
move
So
data around yourself.
oh yeah, they let you do it a little bit within the tablet in the truck. So as you're checking off stops and you're at stop 345 and the next door just signed up, they're not 346, they're stop number 1 because they're at the top of the route.
Right.
So you hit stop number 1, say move after previous stop, and then you service it. That goes to the office as a note saying, hey, this is getting moved to right after 345.
Right. And you move it. I mean, it ends up being moved.
Yeah, and
on
then
the
it's
route.
moved. Yeah, I think it has to be confirmed by the person at the desk running exceptions for trash flow.
Okay.
But yeah, that communication's there, and you don't have to call. Like you don't have to stop running a route, and make a phone call, and
And
say
that's kind of like a one-time thing, so we're
Yep.
not having to do it.
nope. It's just tap tap.
So the data's
Done.
there. There's
Yep.
just some confirmation possibly on the back end.
Right. Well, yeah, and the thing is, like, there's a note section in the trash flow, but as little as you can use that, the better.
Because it's a hidden, well,
Well,
it's,
you
it's
gotta
not hidden. I mean, you got to, you got to type.
Type, and that's slow.
Right. But the other one is you have to click on the notes to see it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, that's the only, that's the place where you can say, okay, these are the things that we put in there. Right.
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z, and then anything that is notable.
Yeah.
And that helps. That
Yeah.
helps with things like, we have to send this person to collections, or
Right.
yada yada. But at least, and what that notes sections does, if you put it in or somebody else in the office, and we've got Sally or Sam or whoever's in the office, and they were kind of one of those information a-holes. So they had all this stuff stored, but they didn't put it in the notes, and then they're like, screw you guys, I'm leaving. So all of that stuff walks out the door. But if it's put in the notes, that means
Right.
that anybody in the office,
Yeah.
which goes back to, okay, so you started a company,
Yeah.
you're the owner, you have it all in your head, don't become an information a-hole
Yep.
or information island a-hole.
Yeah.
But don't let your office staff or your drivers become that either.
No.
We want to make sure. So if everything is in the notes field there that we need to discuss,
Yeah.
like
There-
Thor likes to call in and call us horrible names, when his bill's late.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about that too is, as an owner that isn't micromanaging,
Mm-hmm.
and listening to everybody's phone call or whatnot, but when somebody comes to them and says, Thor, we really need to move off of this customer,
Mm-hmm.
and they pull open the notes, and for the last 9 months, it's, they threw eggs at the truck, or I'm just making stuff up.
Like
But-
chronically, they put it right next to a mailbox. Or
Yeah.
park a
Yeah.
car in front of it. and-
Right, or
Yeah.
always lay it on their bill and blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, but if that stuff's in the notes, then other people can see and go, yeah,
Yeah.
this is, not only did you document it, I documented it, she documented it.
Yeah.
It's time.
Yeah.
So, okay, so both phone numbers. Make sure you get the mobile. Make sure, like in trash flow, just properly list everything that needs to go in there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you can see in those routes
Mm-hmm.
is bill codes.
Okay.
So when you're out there, and this happened plenty of times, you would see somebody who was like on a monthly bill code or a biweekly,
Mm-hmm.
but was getting serviced weekly.
Yeah. Yeah, that was,
And so it's like, whoa, we need to not do that because
yep.
they're not paying for that.
Yeah.
So, make sure that your bill code aligns.
Mhm.
Um, and I was talking with somebody, and they were like, it's amazing how many people are on routes. You
Yep.
can go in, if you have a good system in place, you can go in and do things. And I would recommend this to anybody. If you have a system, go into your routes, figure out who's on your routes, and make sure that you've collected money from all of them.
Right.
Because up to 10% in people's databases are picking up trash and not sending a bill.
Oh, that there was okay. There was a time where
So I could see you getting bored, and then
no,
I say this, and you're like, "Wow, yeah."
here's well, what we said before was like, okay, you're going to talk about data management. There might be some people that get a little like glazed over. Similarly,
Right.
because I still want to have a podcast relatable to drivers,
Right.
and I try to be that embodiment for here. But I'm sure there's other drivers that have seen this if they operate in competitive places. When I first came over here, there was a stop where it didn't have our Ace branded carts, and our competitor serviced it for at least 8 or 9 months because they would get there before me. But it's like,
Oh
well,
yeah, 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 yeah. No,
here's
and there was one at the
yeah,
previous place I had worked
yeah,
where the large national competitor, it was
yeah,
just a black cart sitting out
yep.
there, and
The guy would drive by.
guy would drive by, pick it up,
Yep,
and
yep,
so then me being me at the moment, I sent the manager
yeah.
over there. I was like, "Hey, buddy, I want to thank you for picking up our carts."
All right,
He's like, "Which one?" And I'm like,
you figure it out.
"You,
You audit it.
right, right, right."
Because I've done that before. I've tipped a cart because there's some inconsistency in some carts, but it only took a couple times. 'Cause, it's once a week, and then you're there again, and you're like, it's not mine. But this was months and months and months, and I let it slide. But it just told me, okay, I know they're not using tablets. They might have a route sheet in there,
Right.
but I think what's happening is, hey guys, get in the truck, run this neighborhood, take everything that's not an Ace cart, because Mitchell invested a lot of time to make sure all of our customers had carts that had Ace on it.
Except you have lingerers out there.
There's some lingerers out there with
from
personal carts, yeah,
with the buyouts though.
with the buy,
Yeah.
correct.
Yep.
So those would have like their odd carts, and that's the one that was getting serviced regularly. And it took a while. Eventually, they figured it out.
But you're talking like 60, 75, $80 worth of disposal a year.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
Yeah.
like those guys are buying your crew a nice lunch for every one of those that you do
pretty much.
every year,
Yeah.
like clockwork.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So do you
But-
know what some
but
of the
that's-
hardest customers to convert? And I'm going to tell you, the hardest customers to convert are the ones that you are giving free service to.
right.
Right? I can't steal those. I
Right.
can't. Those are
Right.
so hard to crack.
Those are tough
and-
ones.
Right.
Yeah.
So previously, when I'm like, let's get customers, I had to reach out to the other guys and poke him
Yeah.
so that he would go and find all of his non-pay or
Yeah.
the people weren't paying. Then once they got a bill, they're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is horseshit. I'm
Right.
gonna
Then they
go.
went shopping.
Right. Then they went shopping.
Yep.
And I got him.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just out of the blue, this
Right.
happened. So.
Right. So, I mean, if you're in a community of 12,000 homes and no one's doing good data management, and maybe
At
10%,
five, we'll just say 5%.
5%. So you're
That's
talking
600 people.
600. Yeah.
600 people now. 600 times
That's
25.
A lot.
What's
That's so much.
Use your calculator. What's 600 times 25?
That's a big one. 600 times 25. That was so 15 grand a
A
month.
month, or almost
month.
$200,000 a year.
That's just $15,000 of service going out free every month between the two companies just not doing.
Okay, so almost $100,000 per company,
Yeah.
right? So, why don't you charge them?
Yeah.
Okay, so look, and I like to put things in some different perspectives. Why don't you go ahead and charge them? And once you have that 100 G's in there, let me how much of that you're going to donate back to the community that you're already doing,
Yeah.
right? And because
Right.
I promise you're not like, oh yeah, that 100 G's is going to go right back.
Yeah.
I didn't know it before.
But that always goes back to what I've been saying about garbage, and I'll see this in some of the comments on videos we post because they get mad that I suggested someone that has trash overflowing and on the ground needing more service should pay for more service, and they get mad at that notion. It's like you don't understand the scalability, like how vulnerable the garbage companies are to loss because they die by 1,000 cuts, right? It's all these micro moments.
Why do you charge me? What? I'm only a mile down the road.
Yeah.
Why do you want to charge me triple? Well, taking a 60,000-pound truck, you know,
2.5 miles per gallon.
2.5 or 3 maybe if they're driving just down the road.
Yeah.
You know, and so we're having to do that 2, so that's 8, so that's $15 just in fuel.
Yep.
You know, and that's when you need to have your formula.
Yeah.
That says, okay, this is how much money our trucks have to make.
Fuel now is fuel only, $15 just the fuel.
Just for the fuel.
That's not the guy that's actually driving the truck.
Right. So, and if you're at $7 more dollars on disposal, you're at 22. And he's like, well, why won't you drive down here? Well, because how about the lost opportunity on the ones that are more efficient?
You're right.
But I do want to get through the list.
Go.
Okay, so on the inside of the office, now, like I said, just email me at Native Trash Shows, and I will send you out. I'll send you out this list.
Send it to me too, and I can put it maybe in the descriptions.
Yep. Email, and we're going to read that back. Make sure we know, right? Mm-hmm. So read it back to them. Did we get them set up for auto pay? Did we get them set up so that we could just, make sure that that's a web? They get their bill via email and not by. So you're like, well, what is that? Well, let's say that the postcard to send it out is 30 cents, and you got 60 cents in a stamp. We'll just say 90 cents.
Yep.
Times 4, you're at $3.70.
Yep.
You take that times just 1,000 people. That's an extra $4,000. And that's where these things, it adds up. It adds up. It adds up.
Yep.
So the people in the office are really the quarterback of making sure that data is there. So then the driver to the office, right? So you have your tablet out there.
Yep.
Going down the route, you see it, and you're like, okay, was the can out? Yes, it was. I picked it up, and here's the time.
Yep.
Was the can out? No, it wasn't.
Yep. Here's the time.
And here's the time.
Yep.
It's amazing how much time you'll save on the phone when Sally or Sam calls in and says, "You didn't pick me up."
Yeah.
He was there at 11:32.
Yeah.
No.
Not like 11:30-ish.
No, or even this morning.
Yeah.
No, he was there this morning.
Yeah.
But when you say 11:32. Yeah. And even if it is at 11:30, say 11:31 or 11:29, I don't care. But make sure to say that.
Yeah.
And you're going to get rid of 80% of the volume of those calls because they know they were caught.
Yep.
Some people think, well, I need to have cameras to go to the exit. No, you don't have to have cameras.
Yeah.
If you have the time, that's going to cure 90-some% of your problems. Yep. Okay. Let's see here. Were there extras?
Yeah.
So going back to making sure that there's efficiency. We have to make sure that we're efficiently billing people properly.
Yeah.
So if I have somebody that's putting out extras, that sucks up a lot of time.
Yep.
Right? Because it's outside of the can.
It's the difference between 12 seconds to a minute.
Right. Which is a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
It's a big deal. And then it's not fair to the guy next door who's paying for weekly trash, right? But it's one can's worth.
Yep.
So you can send back pictures of the extras, which that's important because that way people in the office can be like, no, there was a pile of crap here, bud.
Yeah.
Broken cans so that you can.
And I'll pause you a little bit on that picture of extras. Like, it's not just the driver using his phone to take a picture and send it to someone in the office who he knows their number. This is done through the customer management software Trash Flow, where the tablet takes the photo and it goes directly to the office person.
No, it doesn't go directly to the office person. They see it, but it goes directly to that customer's account. And in the notes section, they can see the picture.
Exactly. So when the office person opens up that account and be like, oh, there's a photo here. Oh,
right.
Okay, boom, there you go.
And the cool thing about the messaging system is if somebody messages in and says, whoa, what was this about? You don't have to argue with them. You don't have to say, you can just download that picture out of trash flow,
And send
stick it into our message system, and then send it back and say,
Yeah.
here was the charge for extras.
Yep.
Here's the stuff.
Yep.
And then people aren't. And by the way, you're not saying that in like person, so there's no kind of tone issues there. Oh,
Yeah.
he was being a dick to me on the phone, or she was mean.
Uh,
yeah, right. No, it's just a matter of fact. Here's the reason why we charge you extras that day.
Yeah.
And then, would you like a second can?
Yeah. Yep.
So, oh yeah, another one. So broken cans. You know, that's just a good service thing.
Yep.
You know, and if you can head that off, I mean, just tell me this. You got a customer who's been a customer for 7 years. The can's broken, and you know, they wheel it out there like, damn, you know, whatever. But then they come back home that night, and there's a brand new trash can sitting in there because it was shiny and new.
Yep.
And they're like, I didn't even have to call them.
Yep. Just gets done.
It just got done.
Yep.
And that's not a hard thing for you to do at all.
Nope.
Because you can just
If you got the good communication and data.
right, or it's like the wheels.
Yep.
Okay, so our can delivery guy can just go out there with the wheels, swing by,
Yeah.
and get that fixed. Or the lid got cracked, you know, and so he can just go out there. But you're communicating this
Yep.
back. There doesn't need to be a phone conversation. The person in the office can go ahead and just stick that on, like the can delivery guys.
Yeah, and well, the thing is, like, even if, like, I was able to do that once just using the truck. The guy had a busted wheel, so once I got done tipping it, we knew to put a set of wheels in the passenger side of the garbage truck. So as it's still floating off the air at like eye level,
Yep.
all I just was take the old, put the on, set it back down, done. Took
Right.
me like 45 seconds.
Okay, so we were talking about like, and then there's levels of efficiency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not only is there the level of efficiency of not having to call or
Yep.
take notes, or the customer has to call in, or those things, but then there's the efficiency of, in like I was saying, like the can guy goes out, but you're like, oh, on the wheels, that's not a big deal because I'll just
No.
go slap a new set on right there,
Yep.
you know, and
The
and
truck's, truck's already got it up
Yep.
in the air for you.
yep, and the people in the office don't even need to know, the
No.
can guy doesn't even need to go,
Yep.
but all these little steps of efficiency,
Yep.
you know, because maybe it takes that guy 20 minutes to get loaded up, put that thing in, go out there, get it done and take care of. And maybe, you know, maybe they had pulled their can in the garage at
Yep.
the time it was.
Yep.
And then also, since you see the house every week, you might have a belief that they moved.
Yeah.
You know, because you know what that looks like.
Yeah, I have one of those right now. I'm a little suspicious that I've been watching because it was a walkout and they purged a whole bunch of stuff, and then they stopped purging stuff, and it feels like maybe someone elderly passed away and
Oh.
someone moved in,
And maybe,
and they still get the walkout service. You know what I mean? But they're
yeah, like the kind of like the post office. You know, if you're like
Yeah.
an old person that has your mailbox in your door,
yeah,
you know, and it's been that way since '85 when they said
Yeah.
that you had to put a new thing out at the
street curb. Yeah,
Yep. But no, they still will come up and put it in your door,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, and then as soon as you kick it, then they get the note that says,
Yep.
"No,
Yeah,
you can't do that anymore."
I'm like, there's yeah, I
Then they send a note back that says, "No, I'm alive."
right,
Right.
just very quiet.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, and then also like let the customer know, or the office know to reach out about a possible upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, hey, these guys extras are really a whole bunch of recyclables. See if you want to reach out to them if they want to do recycling or get a second trash can. You know, whatever. Left behind a bulky item. So let's say you did take some extras, but there was a bulky item that you didn't take. You know, take a picture of that. I don't even know if you even need to take a picture, but you can just put in the notes quick. Picked up everything that I
Right, because I'll take a picture, but sometimes if you leave something, the customer might can't come home and they know.
Right.
They know. They're like, I wasn't sure if you'd take it, and it's there. So I think that's the answer. But we'll take a photo. I'll take a photo. in those
Well,
instances.
and you can't make shorts and reels
Right.
of how, hey, look at this, I can pick up a leaning tower of Jenga.
I've done those.
Right. What I'm
Yeah.
saying, you can't say like, oh, I couldn't get the couch in there
Yeah.
when you have reels of you picking up one out of a
Right.
out of a ditch that's a sectional. And
There's
you're like, hey, watch me open the chair,
Yeah.
and then get in there. You know,
the ones that I've left would be this monstrous pile of cardboard. I think I still have it. I could probably splice it in. It was huge. Probably 5 or 6 yards worth of cardboard.
oh boy,
Lots. It would like you wouldn't be able to break it down and get it in toter and then tip it.
hey, can we take a break?
Sure, let's pause.
Okay.
You were on about can.
Yeah. So can placement, you know, and that goes back to training your
Mm-hmm.
training your customer, and so can placement. You were just talking about this the other day. You're like the difference between 3 foot versus 6 foot versus, because how far out does your arm go?
12 foot.
12 foot.
Mm-hmm.
So the 12 foot makes it easier for you because you don't have to get out if it was a shorter arm.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
on the other hand, it also allows more customer bad behavior. But what was the difference between when you're like, it's 3 foot versus 12 foot, like time wise?
Oh, I didn't break it down exactly, but it adds up to a couple seconds every tip. Like, because
Like 3 or 4 seconds.
yeah, if you go the full 12 foot, that's a lot of time watching the arm just creep out.
Right.
And then if you want to put it back for the customer at that distance, then it's even longer.
Why would you do that?
I don't.
I wouldn't.
Because like what happens is, cars parked on the curb, they put it up by like a sidewalk.
So and what you guys have is a really nice. So that's something you could just plug in, can placement
Yeah.
issue,
Yeah.
right? And then Casey here in the office,
Yeah.
they already have a nice message that has pictures,
Right.
right? So it has those images, and then they can just send that text message out. So it doesn't
Yeah.
need to be a phone call. Just a simple reminder, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but yeah, training your customers is a big thing on efficiency because we want everything to be as homogeneous as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to be able to pick it up like it's a trailer park.
Yeah. And that does represent the most ideal scenario. Whether trailer parks in contract towns will have that similarity where you can stipulate in a contract or with the trailer park, you are going to set it like past the car. You're not going to put it by a mailbox, not by a bumper. You'll put it past your sidewalk, past your driveway, all the way to the curb, if it has a curb. Not all the trailer park has one, but it's to the curb, and lid's going to be shut. And 200 cans an hour, you could do that.
Go.
Yeah.
Well, how many of the lids are shut though?
Oh well, the last one I ran was trailer park. The lids could be open, but if it was a Jenga and it fell apart, you don't clean it up for them.
No,
We do here. But yeah, that takes up so much time.
Well, and the nice thing about trailer park, a little side note here, trailer parks are great training grounds.
Yep.
For
new
guys when they're learning how to use that
Yep.
that arm to go out and pick up your trash.
Yep.
You sick them on that. You sick them on all the trailer parks or any of the places that are mindless and
Yep.
don't have cars that they're going to reach out and touch
Yeah.
or whatever. But
Garages.
yep, those type of things. So I just kind of want to wrap this up and there's 15 to 30% efficiency. And that's going to be, it's going to be really important to have an operating system that that contains your customer,
Yep.
all their information, the customer's billing. Because if we don't have their billing and that all tied in, then we really can't suspend them,
Nope.
right? Or it becomes very hard to,
Yep.
right? So then think about all the work you have to do to get that suspension list out to the driver, right? Or put things together to send that out to collect. I would say that everybody out there should, that's a should, you shouldn't have more than $1,500 of over 90 days.
Yep.
And because and how you're like, well, how do you get there? And I'm gonna put a little nuance to that. So let's say trash is $30 a month somewhere, right? Well, and bill in advance. Don't just bill in advance. So as the we send out a bill, we'll say December 1st, and it's due January 1st for that first quarter, right? That first quarter. So January, we're already starting to pick up on our dime.
Yep.
So what we want to do is say, okay, by the by the 5th, we are doing this. By the we're sending this text message, or the 2nd, we're sending this message. Hey, just let you know, it's passed at the 5th, the 7th, the 10th, the 15th. And we'll say at the day 15. We suspended them, but we're done at that, at minimizing our loss, really at 2 weeks. 2 weeks plus picking up the can. So, so instead of 30, you have that out there as 90,
Right.
but you're only really $15 worth of revenue, and probably $10 worth of cost, if that. And so if you put the real numbers out there on that, you'll see that 90, but that's not a true 90 because they didn't have service for 2.5 of the 3 months. So that's how you can really shave those down.
Yeah.
And don't let your customers do to you what you wouldn't allow your staff to do, right? So do you allow your staff to just take loans from the business?
Right.
Without discussing it with you.
You're right.
Right. But when people just, do that, and then they're, oh yeah, but build all these processes. I'll go back to it. You can never reach your goals. I mean, you can see them, and but we always are going to fall back to our processes.
Yep.
And you can pick up 15 to 30%.
Yep.
And those are really, really big numbers. By not doing it, you're stopping yourself from hiring quality people.
That's a big one.
You're stopping yourself from providing benefits to people that you want to have on your staff, but they need to have those benefits, right? You're stopping yourself from buying new cans to used ones, or having a truck. For example, you got $1 million company. That's could be 150. Well, heck, $1 million. You're looking at what? That's a truck payment.
Yeah.
For a good quality, side loader.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. So then look at all the efficiencies you grab from going to. We had to start off with my brain just fucking broke. You're gonna have to cut this out because of rear load. Fuck. Oh,
I get it.
yeah.
We've been going for a while.
Yeah, but if you're that $1 million company, you've got that 150,000. You divide that, it's what, 12,250 per month that you can be making a payment towards a new side load. They could go out and pick up the majority of those cans and are much more efficient. But you're stuck with the rear load because that's what you needed because you only had $100,000 or $75,000 to start off with. Get your stuff together and get moving on with it. You're hurting yourself by not doing it, right?
Yeah, it's stalling yourself. Like if
you're keeping people at home, or excuse me, you're keeping people away from their families because you're refusing to take the steps and change. Right.
Yeah. That's big.
Right.
And
so you could pay them the same amount of money for the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And get them home 2 hours earlier.
Yeah.
Tell me, what is that guy going to leave?
No.
Okay.
Oh no, yeah, that's a huge. I mean, that you're talking about retention. That's a whole different conversation. We should almost have that conversation.
But you really can't retain unless you have systems that make it easy and the money to provide the benefits that they want.
But like employee retention, I feel like that's an entirely different podcast. Like
yes. Oh, yeah. We don't have a day. Yeah. We're not going to go the rest of the day here.
No, because I've seen enough where even in automated retain some people, but I've been at companies where it's just regular people are shuffled in, and we'll see if they stick. Yeah,
Yep.
we don't know if they're
Spaghetti
gonna
against
stick around.
wall.
Yeah, we'll see who hangs and who doesn't.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up.
Okay, you wrap it up.
I'm Nate Williams. I'm with Trash Joe's,
Yeah.
okay? And
Yeah.
I am excited about the trash business.
That's
and
evident.
and it hurts my brain. It hurts my noggin when haulers, the owners, or the managers they have in place are not interested in doing some lifting to become more efficient, to make it better for themselves, for the people in the office, for the mechanics,
Yeah.
for and we didn't even talk about like the data that can go with some of these softwares from the driver to the shop, right? You know, and you can take a picture. You know, there's stuff out there. You can take a picture and it gets sent back to the shop, so they can see it and have a part ordered before you're even coming in.
Yep.
And these are, I mean, efficiency stuff at galore. But I would say that it's all about you if you're not sorting out efficiencies.
Yeah.
After watching this, if you're not like, man, how are we getting? It's about you, and then when it's about you, it can't be about your customers or your employees.
Yeah.
And so that leads to failure.
Yep. Oh yeah. And through small doses of poison.
Right.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that'll lead to it.
So to all the trash haulers out there, get efficient.
Yeah, get better data management, get efficiency. But yeah, golly, we could probably go. Just the idea of efficiency is a whole nother, like just beyond data management, the efficiency of like just running routes and.
Well, yeah, but you can't do it without good data.
That's true. It all starts with first step, good data.
So you touched on it. I'm going to speak to it quick.
Good.
So you have like that swing driver that can really go out also.
Oh yeah,
somebody's on vacation for
I
a
know
week
where
or
this is
two.
going.
Yeah, and they can go out there and they can see, okay, this is how the route's being run.
Yeah.
But if we do, from my experience, if we do this, and this, then it'll go ahead and, we can save time.
Yeah.
Right. And so that person, but if they have the route that has all the data and they can go out there and actually see and touch it, then they're also going to be able to fix it and make some changes. And, and if they can shave a half hour off and you're needing $350 an hour, it's $175. That's times 5 days a week. What is that? $850, or $875. Those are real things.
Okay.
So good enough.
All right, let's wrap it up with that. This podcast is garbage. Nate with Trash Joe's talking about data management, and we'll do another one. Actually, next week we're going to be at New Ways Factory, so we probably won't be doing another podcast. Anyway, hopefully I have this up before then. Thanks for watching or listening, and subscribe
and go Big Red.
Okay.